Mr. Scott is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair Lady. And let me commend you on again having a very, very much needed hearing on debt collection and unfairness that's happening to all too many of our consumers. Mr. John Bedard, how are you? One of my Georgia constituents.
Thank you.
And one of our most distinguished lawyers and owner of the highly respected Bernard Law Firm
Thank you.
of Duluth, Georgia.
That's
my
correct.
district. Thank you, sir. Good to have you. Mr. Bernard, let me ask you, we're working on this committee under the leadership of Ms. Waters on the issue of privacy and in trying to get a good bill before the CFPB, as well as dealing with the privacy issue with our fintech. So it's a big issue to all of us and certainly to the nation. But there was a survey that CFPB did, and 63% of the consumers that were contacted in this survey said they were abused by debt collectors. But more remarkably, 90% of those that felt they were abused were contacted more than 3 or 4 times in a week, over and over again. And so we have the CFPB's proposed regulations that makes changes to the frequency and manner through which debt collectors can communicate with consumers, including through social media platforms and private messaging services. And so with consumers already facing these enormous challenges, safeguarding their most personal and sensitive information, do you feel that the CFPB's proposed rule adequately protects the privacy of our consumers?
Thank you, Representative. The answer is yes. And the proposal goes one step further. The proposal gives control to consumers over those communication channels. Consumers have an unconditional right to opt out of those communications. So to the extent consumers even feel at risk of privacy exposure, they can control the process and they can stop those communications by opting out under the proposal.
Could you explain when you say that the consumers will have control? How will they explicitly have this control?
Thank you, Representative. Under the current draft of the proposal, every communication that is electronic between a debt collector and a consumer must contain a clear explanation of the consumer's right to opt out of electronic communications. And the consumer has an unconditional right to opt out of those communications. And that's why I describe that particular rule as giving consumers control over those communication methods.
Okay, thank you very much. And identity theft and fraud is another issue that we're very much concerned with. And it's come to my attention that many consumers may be facing these courses as a result of debts that are incorrectly attributed to them. And in recent years, we've seen an increase of cyber attacks and breaches that have exposed the sensitive information. So let me turn to you, Commissioner Shura. Are consumers who have experienced identity theft at greater risk of being pursued for fraudulent debt?
Yes.
They are. How?
Well, there have been so many data breaches, not just Equifax, not just Marriott, not just OPM. Our data is everywhere. And consumers, even if we think we have some control over it, it's floating all over the dark web and through our economy.
Well, right quickly, what protections do we have?
Well, right now, there are not affirmative data security and privacy protections generally writ large. The Federal Trade Commission has talked openly about this, and this is going to be a problem as big tech continues to suck up more and more of our data.
Thank you.